Now, whether or not this video stays monetized, as well as does not get shadow banned, will determine whether or not we are indeed living in a post-censorship era. If I'm able to talk about this, which is now common knowledge, it is now no longer in the realm of conspiracy theory, but instead, these are actual facts. These are things that have not only been reported for in the last few years, but have been confirmed time and time again. If that is the case, then we are indeed in a new age. So let's go for it. If this stays up and there's still ads running through it, then we are indeed in a new world indeed. So let's talk about Dr. Ouchie himself, aka Dr. Fauci, the Fauci Ouchie, right? The man who brought you the propaganda, the lies, the man who essentially had you either terrified for your life or pissed off as hell that you had to stay inside the house, the apartment, a damn box, wherever you were, a hospital, separated from your family members, your loved ones. Maybe you got separated from a few people you don't like, and maybe that was a gift, but everything else, not so much. Turns out that that man right there may very well be brought to justice. Now, let me just catch us up on what the hell has happened in the last few years, right? I don't know if you guys may recall, but there was a time in recent history where there was a guy, an alleged doctor, who, let's say, told a lie. And that lie led to more than half the world being completely shut down, hundreds of millions of people losing their jobs, their businesses, and their overall livelihoods, people being forced into isolation when there was already an epidemic of loneliness, right? Just edified on top of that one. We were already dealing with fear, anxiety, the doom scrolling generation. And yet here we find ourselves on the very edge of the most frightening time in human history. There was a complete psychological operation, a psyop, a propagandized campaign to have us terrified that if you contracted this, you were done for. You were finished. It was over. Now, turns out that that actually wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, more people survived by simply just kind of going through the symptoms as they would have any other flu or cold than the individuals who ended up getting the Fauci ouchie, the pokey pokey. Now, I myself did not get a single Fauci ouchie. I did not get the pokey pokey. I did not. I opted out of it. I was the type of guy that they had to force one of those ridiculous muzzles on. Like I would walk into a grocery store and y'all would have to tell me, hey, you put this muzzle on your face. You would damn near have to throw it. Like you would have to glue the damn thing on my face to even keep it on. I was the dude to keep the nose out the muzzle. That was me. Because I knew this was ridiculous. I didn't need any sort of evidence besides what I was seeing, what I was experiencing, and what I knew about the propaganda machine, right? There had to be something deeper about this. Now, of course, I was then exposed to truth that was obviously being censored during this time by platforms like the very one you are seeing this on, which again is why I made the statement I made in the beginning. Because if you were a doctor, if you had been in medicine for the last 40 years and you told the truth about what was actually happening with the vid, oh, you were gone. It wasn't just you were tagged as, spreading misinformation, but you were also essentially labeled as kind of a threat to the system. And the very man who is now being prosecuted, or at least in the process of being prosecuted, there's a case being built against him. That very same man was given the utmost authority to dictate what was going to happen to 300 million plus people. One man who was not given authority by the people, right? Because, the left loves to talk about who gave Elon Musk the authority to do what he's doing. Well, first and foremost, the man is literally trying to save our money. The richest man in the world is working to save our money. Like we're living in this weird Twilight Zone-ish of a world, right? So if we're going to talk about unelected officials, let's talk about the so-called doctor himself. And I say so-called because what type of doctor moves like this? There's supposed to be an oath that doctors take. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this one or any of his buddies or pals down there in Washington, D.C. have done anything of the sort. But I digress. We all found ourselves in the most compromised, for many, especially those who experience having family members pass away, not from the lie, but, we're going to pass away anyway. Family members who passed away and they weren't able to be there in their last moments because of this lie that was told by Fauci. It was because of that. Let's not get that twisted. That's the reason I wanted to do a little trip down memory lane. Is it's so easy for us with these fast news cycles and in the age of information to just overlook things. Oh yeah, that happened already. No, like we got to go back into the receipts. We got to refill that pain in order to bring certain individuals, certain institutions, whatever it is, to justice. This is a man who caused an economy essentially to collapse, or was part of an economy collapsing, a part of an epidemic of depression, an individual who contributed to, there were kids who were born or maybe in school during this time, and they essentially will never be the quote unquote same, right? I'm not meaning that they can't overcome certain traumas and things of that nature, right? Humans are extremely resilient, but their wiring, their hardwiring, or their software, it's off. Because they grew up in a very unnatural time, doing very unnatural things that were forced upon them. And then on top of that, they're the very ones who are forced to put these foreign entities into their bodies, to put these chemicals into their bodies. That's what that Fauci ouchie was. And I remember this, right? I remember my older cousin who was living in Ireland at the time, and he told me, you really need to take this more serious. We were in the heat of it, maybe 2021 or something like that. He said, you need to take this more serious, cuz you need to be safe, blah, blah, blah. You need to go get your pokey, your Fauci ouchie. And I was like, nah, I'm good off that. I'm good. He's like, okay, whatever, but people are dying out here. So me and my cousin are supposed to have a call 3 days after that first call. And he sends me a message and calls off and says, sorry, I can't do it because I am sick. Like I'm sick as a dog in desert weather. You understand me? Like I'm sick. I am feeling numbness in my arm. I can't move my damn arm. I'm feeling a fever I've never experienced before, etc. And I was like, damn, is this the vid? Turns out that the day before he had gotten his second Fauci ouchie, his so-called booster. I had gotten none, and he had now gotten his second one. And after getting that second one, his symptoms started to surface, or at least the side effects of the Fauci ouchie. And he ends up bedridden for 3 days, not from the vid, not from the damn flu, the glorified flu. No. He got it from the vaccine. And so we are now in a place where more and more information is coming out, obviously, about what actually happened. And now it is common knowledge, hopefully, that this was indeed a leak from a lab in Wuhan, China. Remember, they called Trump a racist for daring to say such a thing. This was a leak. It was a it was a man-made biological phenomenon. It was produced by human hands. It then leaked from that lab and hit essentially the population. That is a fact. That's not conspiracy. That's not he say, she say. This is mainstream media has already covered these things, right? There's still people who are wearing a mask right now looking like a fool, like an absolute whole fool. After the very same Fauci said that mask technically doesn't help. It doesn't do much at all. This man was caught in 4K admitting that nothing is going to stop this thing that is airborne, and instead it must just spread, and there must be herd immunity, and that's the way he was saying this behind the scenes, but then what he spread out is the propaganda, which benefited his pockets, allegedly, right? These are things that are probably going to show up in court, if he even has his day in court. He's 84 years old. I hope he makes it to court. I hope he gets to do his time, but nevertheless, this is a man who was invested in the disease as much as the so-called cure for it. But again, what else do we expect from a system who has done nothing but create diseases only to become the hero for those very same diseases? And I am saying that intentionally. Dis-ease, the lack of ease in the body. They make it this big old boogeyman that is so externally. No. If we had just been told to take the best care of our immune system, some people won't. Some people are going to eat the BS they're going to eat. They're going to live a lifestyle that is, is tearing up their body. But the God honest truth is, just like any other flu, cold, etc., the stronger your immune system is, the better off you're going to be. If you're deeply compromised in your immune system, etc., okay, sure, stay away from the general population, etc. That'll be the same for a flu, cold, pneumonia, whatever it is, right? You don't want to be exposed to too much if you are in a place of compromise. But the babies, the children, they were the least likely for anything to happen to, yet they're the ones who are being injected with this foreign object, these chemicals, this concoction of God knows what. So the reason I'm talking about this is because I do believe that there is a universal justice. I do. I believe that all things that happen in the dark will come to the light. I genuinely believe in those words. All things, not some. Now, the time frame of things may be different. It may be in my lifetime, not in my lifetime. That's okay. But all things that are done in the dark will be exposed. They will come to the light. However, we are responsible for bringing these things to the light. That's why I speak on anything that I speak on. That's why I, quote unquote, speak truth to power. I hate that has become such a cliche, but it is a God honest truth. You speak truth, and that truth essentially becomes a source of power. You illuminate things in the dark, and they are now exposed. And so for me, it's like these are subjects that sometimes, you don't know what the consequence, what the outcome. You don't know what backlash. Not talking about y'all, everyday people, but you don't know if you become a target or not. You don't know. There's certain things where I'm like, I have to tell this truth. This might make me a target. I might be on a list somewhere, but I'm well aware of that. And I know I still, in spite of that, have to tell the truth. So the system of justice essentially works perfectly in a universal sense, right? In a godly sense. And then that trickles down into our daily affairs, where a man who was given a pardon, a preemptive pardon, by the alleged president of the United States, not the one we have now, but the one that somehow got 81 million votes, and we're still looking for 30 million of those, somehow disappeared. The least favorite in polling, but the most beloved in voting. It's strange. But anyway, that president then gives this individual, Dr. Fauci, a get out of jail free card. Well, at least what he thought was going to be a get out of jail free card. Turns out that what it actually was a preemptive pardon for anything at a federal level, which meant that if you were at a state level, if two states came together, or two or more states came together, they could put together a suit. And it turns out that that's exactly what has happened. We are now in the very midst of that. And this is going to continue to unravel. I believe in the words that I professed before this year started. Shout out to PBD, Patrick Bet David. He was speaking on somebody in his life said that 2025 will be the year of justice. And I'm already seeing it. I mean, we already got Epstein's files about to come out. We got the Diddy files about to come out. Like, things are dropping like albums. They're dropping like Lil Wayne used to drop mixtapes back in the day. We got a new one every single week. I believe that there is going to be a reckoning. And the reckoning is nigh. It's right now. That's why they are fighting tooth and nail in the propaganda machine, within their so-called legacy media. They're fighting with everything they have. They have never been so blatant in their stupidity because they're chasing their tails. They're essentially, it's like trying to hold the wind is what mental picture I get. You're trying to capture something that is so elusive. It's vapor. It's smoke. It's done. It's been an illusion the entire time. How are you trying to keep together something that never was? And so now it's being exposed. The only thing that can happen is it being exposed. It's like turning a light on. When light floods a room, you cannot stop just a little bit of light. Please, just half the light now. Please, just a third. No, the entire thing is going to be illuminated. So as corruption is being shown, the entire platform is being exposed. We're now seeing the agencies that have been funneling our money into this place, that place. We're now seeing the money that was sent over to Ukraine was actually being washed and brought back here. You know, the arms trades that were taking place underground using the money that we are finding out who took what money from who, whose money ended up where, who's getting what from who. You know, a guy like Bernie Sanders, who I've never been a fan of because his policies are just, they're idiotic, they're childlike, they're naive, they're lies. Oh, well, you know, we're going to get free college for everybody and free this and free that. Okay, who's going to flip the bill? Oh, the rich billionaire bastards. Okay, what about if they leave? Because you're now taxing them at 75% and, you know, 50% on their capital gains. Like, I'm a billionaire, I'm leaving your ass immediately. You make it hard for me to do business, you disincentivize me, I'm gone. And I'm 41% of your tax base. 1% of the country pays 41% of the taxes. They're gone. 41% of taxes are gone. Plus the ecosystem they affect as job creators, etc. Most of them, you know, or many of them are employers. So they leave. The jobs are gone because the companies are gone. So now you lose how much? Upwards to 90% of your tax base. What are you going to do? Use the folks that you have made dependent on welfare, who are responsible for like 2-3% of your tax base? That's what you're going to do? That's the, you know, the communist, comment section communist, social media socialist manifesto, everything for free. Who's going to pay for it? Oh, the billionaires. Okay. But a guy like that, we're now finding out that he has money in his pocket that came from the healthcare industry, right? Big Daddy Pharma. That's interesting. The very same man who was going off about oligarchies and small groups in charge of little small group of people who are billionaires or millionaires, and they're actually in charge of the larger group. No, you are the oligarchy, my friend. You are that system. Who's backing you? Just a question, I guess. All these things are being exposed in 4K. You can't hide a damn thing anymore. All your skeletons are going to be out in the open. And I'm talking about at an individual level as well. I believe there is a full reckoning taking place. We are in the age of truth. And we are in the year of justice. So Fauci, I hope you get everything that comes to you. And I hope this sets a precedent to say that though he is 43 years old and, you know, if he does end up in prison, then he will likely spend the last years, which there probably aren't many. And that kind of rat right there, that kind of rodent will likely just, you know, find a way to go sooner. But it sets a precedent for the rest of them because that's what consequences do. You see, when criminals go to prison and they have hefty fines on them, they have large, they have a heavy weight on them legally. Even if you double or triple down. That's why sometimes I'm a fan of it. If somebody does a heinous crime or, you know, somebody like a Ben Bernanke who finessed hundreds of thousands of people out of billions of dollars. When you have an individual like that, give them the triple duty, you know, whoop whop. Give that individual the 3 life sentences. And the ones around who want to pull a Ponzi scheme off like that, they're going to think twice about it. Right? Before the RICO Act, the mafia was going crazy. After the RICO Act, they was second guessing. Yeah, do we really have to whack all these people? I think not. So, yeah, I'm proud to present this type of information. You know, I tend to not just, again, fixate on political specifically, but I'm now seeing that the political aspect of life is impacting every other aspect of our lives in a very real way. And, you know, we're more aware, we're more conscious, information spreads faster, and we're able to weed through things and to see things for what they are. And also, you know, we got to combat against the propaganda because there will always be that. There will always be those who want to create a perception for you to think through. Like for me, I have a perception that I'm essentially creating like a lens you can see through, but I would hope that you think for yourself first and foremost and, you know, and always. I hope that I am not your voice of reason, but instead you can reason for yourself.
I used to be afraid of the dark, a place unknown like a heart in their heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3, 6, 5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.